Blog Talk Radio.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening.
We, the people, tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. Our Constitution is a document in which we, the people, tell the government what it is allowed to do. The man is not free unless government is limited. And informed patriotism is what we want. But still watch closely. And don't be afraid to see what you see.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it.
When in hell are all you people going to wake up?
Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report.
Well, hello, America. Welcome to the Monday, March 10th, 2014 edition of Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network, the exclusive home of the Watchmen of America program. Hey, Watchmen. A little shout-out. I'm Joanne Moretti, and my great co-host JoJo Norton's here with me, too, and we appreciate you tuning in with us. Thank you so much. Our call-in number, as usual, is 714-888-7404, and our always interesting chat rooms, both at Blog Talk Radio and right here at PRN, are open for you, too. Our colleagues and valued member of our research team, Lynn, AstroTurf, and Famous Anna, are in the chat rooms, along with other members of our crew. Anyhow, they're putting links into the chats to articles, documents, sources, and other investigative report links into the chat, so you have them right there for you. Thank you for that courtesy, ladies. We appreciate you. We have a lot of news to get to today, as well as a special report from our own financial guru, Carol Ray. Carol will be updating us on some very important stock information, global markets, and the health of our economy. You know, stuff you need to know to prepare yourselves for the inevitable decline. Before we start the show, though, we must do the disclaimer, and that just tells the FCC, feds, and anyone else who might be interested that whatever we say on this show is solely my responsibility and not that of our wonderful sponsors, PRN and the Watchmen. It goes like this. The comments made by hosts and or guest hosts or phone callers of the PRN radio network do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints, ideology, beliefs, or anything else of members of the Watchmen of America program or the Patriot Resistance website, either in past, present, and even future broadcasts. Anyhow, now that that's out of the way, let me get over to JoJo's mic and open up her microphone if I can get it open, and then we'll get this party started. Hey, JoJo.
Hey.
Hey,
well,
how you doing
nice
today?
Day. It's really nice here in Louisiana today. The sun's out, warmed up, got to fiddle in the yard a little bit, rode my scooter a little bit, so it's been good.
That sounds great. I saw that the sun was shining in a lot of places that haven't had sunshine. You know me, I'm solar powered. If I don't have any sunshine, I'm just going to wither away. I don't know how people put up with not having enough sunshine.
Well, but yeah, you get sunshine 300 29 days out of the year anyway. So.
Oh, yeah, at least that. And even in our rainy season, it only rains for a couple hours, and then the sun shines bright like it never happened. I'm down here in Florida, as everybody knows. But I'm originally from Boston. And last year, the sun only shone in Boston.
We'd never known.
No way.
Say car keys.
Yeah, the car keys, and I'm wicked good at keeping that a secret, huh?
Yeah.
Anyhow, the sun only shone 180 days last year out of 365 up there, so no wonder people are at each other's throats.
Yeah.
Been a very busy week, huh, my friend?
Yeah, oh, my God. I mean, I know we need to do 4 nights a week again to cover all this, but oh my God, that's a lot of work. A lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but I'm hoping we can pick up another day anyhow. See what happens.
I mean, but we just have to hit the high spots. But we have our Facebook Moretti Underground group page. So if you're on Facebook, go there, ask to join. We'll check you out. And we have great people in that group. A lot of researchers. I mean, we don't, say their names and stuff on the air because we don't have their permission. But I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of great people in that group. And we also, thanks to our buddy Scott, have a YouTube channel now. And so all you have to do is go to YouTube, go to the search bar, type in Moretti Underground. It'll come up. Then you subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. Just subscribe. Then it'll be on your YouTube page. When you hit YouTube, it'll pop right up. So, and it's easier to listen to than trying to go back to PTR and listen to the link. So, everybody do that.
Yes, and thank you, Scott. Scott's our production manager, and he puts all of our advertising together and all of that. Kelshu's in the chat room, and Anna, and they're saying that, well, Kelly said that they had 3/4-inch ice storm Friday, and there's still no schools, and there's 15,000 people out. And then Anna says, yeah, we're expecting snow, too. I'm so sorry. That's all right.
Me too.
Yeah, I bet all those people want to grab that little groundhog and wrangle them.
Well, Easter's not till April 20th this year. And here in the South, and I'm sure other places, they advise you not to plant your garden until after Easter. So there's always that last spring freeze at Easter. So I think we have, all of us, even us in the South, probably have some more winter coming.
Yeah, back in Boston, I remember a serious ice storm on April 1st, April Fool's Day, and it was no joke. But I'll tell you, it was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I rode the train into downtown Boston from a little suburb outside there, and everything looked like this giant ice sculpture. It was just phenomenal. And this day, the sun was shining and glistening off the ice that had happened the day before. It does look beautiful, but boy, what a pain. But that's all right, everybody. Think spring. Hey, JoJo, I got about 6 inches of news here, and Carol's going to be here. Anything you want to say before we jump in?
No, I'm just going to follow your lead. I know we've been reading the same stuff all day, so go for it. I'll jump in. I'll throw in my 2 cents when I can.
Well, I want to start with our outrage of the week. There's an 81-year-old woman in jail in Florida for feeding birds. I don't even know if she was set up, but listen to this story. It's from We Are Change. This is probably the first, last, and only time you'll ever hear me quote those people. But it says, that's right, an elderly woman violated her probation by leaving breadcrumbs out in her yard for crows and will remain behind bars. 81-year-old Mary Musselman was first arrested last month for feeding bears in her backyard. Actually, she wasn't feeding the bears. She was feeding the little woodland critters, and the bears found their way there. Anyhow, one of the bears had to be euthanized over it because Fish and Wildlife Services said the bears might learn not to be afraid of people anymore and then get aggressive. The judge in the case warned Musselman not to feed any more wild animals of any kind. A judge gave her probation at the time and made it clear, do it again and you go to jail. She did. She was arrested in January, and the case ignited controversy when Musselman was held without bond. Apparently, where it really got serious is when officers recently went by to check on her home, as they reportedly did over and over, sounds like she's being harassed, and found breadcrumbs in her yard one day. Her attorney, William Fletcher, told Fox 13 that the officers issued a new arrest warrant after checking on her home and seeing that she was leaving bread out for the crows. That violates her court order not to feed any wild animals. Yep, an elderly lady was caught leaving out pieces of stale bread for the birds. it's a clear violation of her probation not to feed the animals, even birds, apparently. So, I mean, well, really, what's this, an Alfred Hitchcock movie? Anyhow, she was arrested and put back in jail. Her attorney has argued that his client...
It has to do with welfare and food stamps. I mean, there's signs everywhere. Do not feed the wildlife. They don't want them to become dependent.
Well,
they're dependent on the system of someone feeding them. So it's kind of like welfare. You don't want wildlife to end up with a food stamp card.
Yeah, well, it says her attorney argued that his client is mentally ill and suffering from Alzheimer's and dementia. I know it was. I'm sorry. Yeah, don't feed the animals. They could become dependent, and then let's just give them all food stamps. They definitely become dependent. I got it. Anyhow, the lawyer says that the woman has dementia and should be allowed to live with her brother under supervision. The judge instead ordered that Musselman remain in jail until she receives a more thorough mental evaluation. So they're going to keep this 81-year-old woman in jail for leaving breadcrumbs out. It wasn't like she was leaving out picnic baskets for bears. And the bears have been a blight on that, and I've looked into it. The bears have been a blight on that neighborhood long before this woman was feeding her critters. All right, she was feeding squirrels and birds, and the bears came and raided the food things and stuff. So they said that a bear had to be euthanized because of this woman. That's not necessarily true. Other people have had their trash barrels raided and stuff, and the whole neighborhood has to have locked trash cans. So this woman isn't bringing the bears. The bears were there. But now you got an 81-year-old woman with Alzheimer's sitting in jail. Are you kidding me? Was she a threat to society or something?
I guess so.
You know, there's drug dealers and murderers and bankers that don't go to jail.
She did not do what the dead government told her to do. She didn't mind them.
Yeah, well, she's got dementia. She probably doesn't even remember she was ever in court. Never mind what the thing said. You know, but 81 years old, leave the woman alone. I mean, isn't there something better? And who knows if she might not even know if she put those breadcrumbs out. Could be a cop just busting her, her chops. Or one of the neighbors. You know, the neighbor could be throwing stuff in the yard just to get the chick in trouble. You don't think it's funny. It's not funny. Anyhow, I think that maybe we should have a look into this. All right, this airplane, JoJo.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you lose an airplane, all right, that it has beacons? And plus they said that these people's phones are still ringing. Anybody who knows that their phone has ever got broken or shut off, if you try to call it, it goes right to voicemail. Denise said, maybe they have a different type of service over there, but they were from all different countries. So if the phone was off, it wouldn't be ringing. They can't find it. They had found some debris, but it ended up not belonging to that. The original radar that we looked at, there's some curious things on there, too. But now they've even changed that radar. Thank God we got a screen copy and video of it. But, they even changed the radar now, saying that the plane did a U-turn. No, it didn't. It banked left, then it banked right, then it banked right again. And then it disappeared. But if you look at the original radar, in the southeast corner of the board where, you read the radar, where the radar is, there's this plane. It starts out like a little dot. It morphs into an airplane, and it takes off faster than all the other planes. But it doesn't really go anywhere. It stays in the same latitude as the last spotting on the radar of this plane. It's over at my Facebook page, the radar. But, something's funny about that. Now, I got a story in front of me that says Taiwan received a warning of an attack 3 days before the flight disappeared, and this is from Euronews. Taiwan authorities have said they received information about a possible terrorist attack on Beijing's airport just 4 days before the Malaysian flight disappeared. They believe it's unrelated, but they're still investigating. Are you kidding me? Unrelated?
Yes, unrelated. My only, I don't even want to use the word logical, because nothing's logical, is if that plane had a catastrophic event, like it blew up, but it blew up with such force, it was in a gazillion pieces, like every piece of the plane was like a half a square inch in diameter, then they may not find any debris. And then if it blew up in that amount of force and in that many pieces, then the transponders, the black boxes, and all that crap would have blown up too. And
right.
the only thing I can come up with that's halfway logical. And then there's all the other stuff that is the other possibility.
Yeah, well, there's more than one black box on them. And as a matter of fact,
but I'm just saying, if it blew up with such force that the bomb was big enough to blow it up in a gajillion pieces, all the pieces, like, small, I mean, a huge explosion, then all those things would have blown up, too.
Right.
So that doesn't answer why the cell phones are still ringing, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm putting the link to that radar into the chat room, okay? And anybody who looks at it, look at the southeast section of that radar. I'm sure some of the watchmen would know how to read radar. I really don't know what I'm talking about, what I'm looking at. The subject plane is in red, but the other plane that I'm talking about is yellow on this board, and you'll see it takes off. It's right at the 2-minute mark, 2 minutes to 2:09, and you'll see the plane not only takes off, but then it just lingers around the area where the subject plane was, the missing flight. It also shows you, if you play it in slow motion, how the plane banks left, then banks right, then banks right again. But it doesn't make a whole U-turn. And then it disappears off the map. Also, underneath the plane, just before it disappears, there's like a line. I don't know what that line means, but it goes from tracking it, and then it looks like, it changes color underneath the plane. I don't know if the plane got shot down or what. We really don't know. The plane, who knows? It could have even been hijacked.
But they say,
there's just way too much mystery.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But if there's a secret way, if they're hijacked, there's a secret signal they can send. There's all kinds of high technology on these planes. There was no kind of Mayday. There was no hit the button for a secret problem. There was... it wasn't like it was hijacked and maybe somebody texted their family on the phone saying, oh, my God, we've been hijacked. There's no parts. And there's a lot of speculation. And then over the weekend, I just want to say this. I had a lot of people say, look at this movie, look at this TV show, look at this book, look at this. And I looked at a lot of stuff. And NBC, I don't watch TV, so this was all news to me. NBC has some of the strangest television shows on primetime.
Right.
And it's just like the ones Scott clued us into the other day that he put our picture up and referenced a Netflix TV show. I looked into that. There's some stuff out there that makes you think twice.
Yeah, you ain't kidding. Well, I just, hopefully somebody that maybe we know would be able to look at the radar and see what they think about this. Now, also the BBC, the Persia BBC, says that 2 Iranians on the Malaysia airline flight had bought the fake passports in order to migrate to Germany and Denmark. The 2 men said by Interpol to have been traveling on stolen passports on the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, of course, that mysteriously disappeared. It says BBC Persia report quotes an Iranian friend of one of the men who said he hosted the pair in Kuala Lumpur after they arrived from Tehran in the days preceding their flight to Beijing. The friend, who knew one of the men from his school days in Iran, said the men had bought the fake passports because they wanted to migrate to Europe. The pair were traveling on passports belonging to Christian Kozel, a 30-year-old Austrian, and Luigi Maraldi, a 37-year-old Italian. They had bought the passports in Kuala Lumpur as well as tickets to Amsterdam by way of Beijing. Now, I would have believed that a little bit, but how did they get to Kuala Lumpur from Iran?
Oh.
So, that needs a closer look, too. There's also, they said that there were 7 people on board with questionable, facts here. Anyhow, Scott.
And how many people missed the plane?
7.
We know of 2 on Twitter.
We know 2. Yeah, we know 2.
Excuse.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have that right in front of me. But before I get to that part, Scott, our production manager, he put out this article. It says 6 important facts that you're not being told about the lost Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. it goes on here, but it says, fact one, all Boeing 777 commercial jets are equipped with black box recorders that can survive on any onboard explosion. No explosion from the plane itself can destroy the black box recorders. They are bomb-proof structures that hold digital recorders of cockpit conversations as well as detailed flight data and control surface data. Fact two, all black box recorders transmit local signals for at least 30 days after falling into the ocean. Yet the black box from this particular incident hasn't been detected at all. That's why investigators are having such trouble finding it. Normally, they only need to home in on the black box transmitter. Fact three, many parts of destroyed aircraft are naturally buoyant and will float in water. In past cases of aircraft destroyed over the ocean or crashing into the ocean, debris has always been spotted floating on the surface of the water, and that's because, as you may recall from the safety briefing you learned to ignore, your seat cushions may be used as a flotation device. Fact number four, if a missile destroyed Flight 370, the missile would have left a radar signature. Now, see, we talked about that, too, unless it was under the plane, I'm wondering. Anyhow, one theory currently circulating on the net is that a missile brought down the airliner, somehow blasting the aircraft and all its contents to smithereens, which means very tiny pieces of matter that are undetectable as debris.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. Fact number five, the location of the aircraft where it vanished is not a mystery. Air traffic controllers have full details of almost exactly where the aircraft was at the moment it vanished. They know the location, elevation, and airspeed. 3 pieces of information which can readily be used to estimate the likely location of debris. And finally, fact number 6. If Flight 370 was hijacked, it would not have vanished from radar. Hijacking an airplane does not cause it to simply vanish from radar. Even if transponders are disabled on the craft, ground radar can still readily track the location. So, Flight 370 may not have exploded. It disappeared. But disappeared how? Disappeared where? Did it turn around, follow the exact flight back?
I looked into the Lockerbie explosion, and there was debris from that. That was in 1988, 89, somewhere in there. And there was plenty of debris from that one. So, and then there's other people that are talking about this new laser technology and blah, 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 which I don't know nothing about or very little about.
Well, if a laser had hit it, radar wouldn't have detected it. And that's why I'm talking about that plane, that mysterious plane. If you look at that radar, look to the southeast of where the plane was, traveling. It's heading over Kuala Lumpur. And if you look southeast, this plane appears on the radar, and it goes faster than, and as a matter of fact, it crosses past a couple of airplanes. And then it just, stabilizes right in the same latitude as this plane. Now, we had talked about those laser weapons that, we have, we know of. We don't know who else has them, but what
do they call it? Sky Wars technology or something like that?
Well, I don't know, but they're being deployed on battleships for testing. And they can burn a hole in anything, so they might have burnt the plane. I don't know what happened to the plane. Now, there were 7 people who missed the plane. We know of 2 of them. The other night, while bouncing around and looking for information, this caught my eye. This guy, his name is Caden 4, but it's in Roman numerals, Caden IV. And it's Caden DL on his Twitter feed. Says he's a CEO, a fiance, a son, brother, father, uncle, friend, painter, philanthropist, and he says, how the hell do I work this? And he goes on, he's from the Pacific Northwest. All right, he starts out his tweets. He says, hopefully my next tweet will be from the U.S., and my brother and nephew will have made their return trip, too. It's been a long week. And he has this girlfriend. Her name is Salithria, but he calls her Rhea. And he says, Rhea, I can't reach you by phone. We missed the flight. Rory and I are okay. Rhea, I'm not on the flight. I'm okay. A little while later, he says, Rhea, lighting up your notifications, baby doll. I'm okay. Missed our flight. I'm safe, Rhea. Email, text, tweet, so I know you see this. Now, as he goes along, he says, by the grace of God, we missed our flight to China. I'm okay, as is Rory, my companion. I'm sorry to worry people, or Rhea. And then he writes to her again, Rhea, I'm sorry. Get off your phone. I can't call through, sweetheart. I love you. I'm sorry. And then he tells his, whoever, JLIZ, hug, I love you, Liz. I'm sorry. Trying to reach Rhea now. Hug Ryan and RK. I headed home soon. Then he says, I was very angry at Rhea because she had gotten sick and I had to cover her. I was working on that, missed my flight to China, grew angrier. Now Rory and I shake, but for the grace of God, we would have been on that flight. Damn my ego. Instead of updating her, the office, I stewed. And then last week he says, thank you, God. Help me to learn, then live by the lessons you need me to. Amen. And then Rhea comes on a couple hours later and says, Caden nor myself can adequately express ourselves at this time. Please send loving energy to those affected by MH370. We do. Imagine that. Can you imagine what that guy's going through?
Yeah.
Realizing how lucky he and his travel companion are, and how lucky he is that his girlfriend was sick and she delayed him. And then, what about, see, this is your forte. What about survivor guilt? You think that's
there'll
hit
be
him?
a lot of that. Yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot of that. That's going to be, after about the first 48 hours of his glad he's alive, then he's going to be like, But, y'all, look back to 9/11, 2001. A whole lot of heck going on from there, too. Several people missed their flights on 9/11.
Yeah.
And, But
yeah, well, I'm sure
this
dude's going to get a visit,
let's
too.
think back on that, the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania. There was no debris, if you remember. Big old hole in the ground. Wasn't no suitcases. There wasn't no nothing.
Yeah.
Think back on
wasn't
that
even a scorch mark. They cleaned that up real good and put down more sod or something, because that's disappeared.
No, I mean, I saw pictures, and, there was first responder fireman people that walked off shaking their head going, holy crap.
Yeah.
So
I read most of the
technology's out there, but,
Yeah, I read most of that guy's tweets. He came back on after a day, because he did finally end up getting back into the U.S., and he said he arrived in the U.S., and he just had to get to Rhea, and then he was thanking everybody for their inquiries, and, he told the media that he'll get back to them, but right now he just wanted to sit. But I'm pretty sure that he has gotten a visit by now. If you missed that plane and that plane has disappeared, you better have a good reason for missing that plane.
What about the 20 people from Texas that were part of some kind of company?
Mhm. Yeah, the name of their company is something Collider. And, at first I thought, oh, my God, Hadron Collider. But no, they're a high-tech company, and they do Defense Department contracts. And there were 20 of them on the plane. So, I don't know, man. This is just, it's really a mystery.
I think this will go down in history as another one of those things we'll never know the answer to. Which seems
I'm
to be
sure
a whole lot of things the last 5 years.
Jojo, I'd be willing to guarantee the CIA knows exactly what happened to that plane. And we're not just going to find out, just like you said, they're not going to tell us. Because another thing that I learned from a person over on Twitter who works for Boeing is not only do they have the black box transponders, but Boeing themselves has their own transponder system. And everything that's going on in that plane every time it's in flight gets sent to Boeing. It also gets sent, of course, to the air traffic controllers and all of that. But Boeing themselves, the maker of that plane, also has a live feed of information that comes in. And the only person that could have tampered with that would have been a Boeing employee, mechanic or something on the ground. So, sabotage may be an issue too. But they're not getting any information either. So something happened with that plane. What about an EMP?
Well,
you wouldn't see that on radar either.
That's right. And, there's so many possibilities. But let's think back on this on-the-ground mechanic kind of situation. I know for a fact DFW, American Airlines, hires a ton of Muslims. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not trying to be racist against Muslims. That's not where I'm going with this. Mm-hmm. But if whatever airport, if all airports do whatever, it would be easy to get someone infiltrated that might not have best interest at heart. And we also know both pilots were Muslim, and we also know there's some other, we can't make a terrorist connection just yet, but there's a possibility for a terrorist connection.
Mm-hmm. Anna asks, why aren't they going to tell us? I think that they know exactly what happened to this plane. But remember, Obama said Al-Qaeda's on the run, and like JoJo says, there are a lot of the Muslim names on that on the travelers roster too. And then Phantom says Sidewinders are small and possibly not detectable on civilian radar. I got to tell you, Phantom,
but
take a look at that.
35,000 feet. The missing man pads was a question. And I'm not a weapons expert, but I can't understand or see that a man pad can be fired from the ground or another ship. A man pad can't possibly go 35,000 feet, I wouldn't think, much less the accuracy of it. Oh, no,
Right.
That's right. They have a little thing that makes it accurate. Okay, whatever. I mean, that's not my field, the expertise. By a long shot.
Yeah, well, Phantom says Sidewinders are small. That's why Phantom, I don't know if you know how to read radar, but take a look at that plane that goes faster than everybody and then is exactly parallel to the doomed plane. And, I don't know if they shot something. I don't know if it would reach. I don't know what the scale is there for mileage and stuff. I really don't know much about Sidewinders, but something happened to that plane. But who knows? They may have, sliced the pilot's throat and just took the plane somewhere, turned it around. There's little islands out there, too.
Like the movie Lost. Remember the TV series Lost?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, Lynn says the Malaysian airplane may have had RFID chip maker employees on there, too.
Huh.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to tell us because, first of all, it's the beginning of the investigation and they really don't have anything definitive. Or if they do have anything definitive, they're not going to share that with us. Not until,
Well,
I
was reading an article about an hour or so ago, and I got kind of a big kickle out of it. There's 10 or 15 countries all in this search. And I'm thinking, anytime you have a big conglomerate of people and you're trying to organize a search together, somebody's got to be in charge. You can't just all go willy-nilly on your own. So I'm thinking, out of these 10 or 15 countries, I wonder who's decided to be the in-charge person. I bet that's a joke.
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. I guess with weeks to come, we'll find out more. But then again, let's all remember what we all know about false flags. And I'm not saying it's a false flag. I'm saying just put that in your bonnet and hold it there and let's watch this unfold. Let's just watch it unfold and see what happens. Because almost every war has always started over a false flag. Majority.
Well, yeah, and especially where they said that those two passengers were Iranians. That could be. I hope we get to the bottom of this because it's really driving me crazy looking around here. All right, let's talk about the Ukraine for a minute because Russia has now moved anti-ship missiles to Crimea. Paul Joseph Watson wrote this, but he's linked to some of it to Reuters and other. He says Moscow has responded to the United States sending the guided missile destroyer USS Truxtun into the Black Sea by deploying a Bastion anti-ship missile system in Sevastopol, according to reports. News reports claim the Russian Navy is deploying land-based Bastion anti-ship missile systems as a response to the recent U.S. move entering 2 U.S. naval vessels into the Black Sea. An image accompanying the article purports to show a truck carrying some of the equipment, which eyewitnesses said was installed in Sevastopol on Saturday night. The system's designed for the destruction of various surface ships from an enemy landing squadron, convoy, carrier strike groups, as well as single vessels and land-based radio contrast targets in conditions of intensive fire and electronic countermeasures. So Obama moves a couple of ships in, and Putin moves in a couple of anti-ship stuff in there. Now, the Ukraine government, which we know was overthrown by those revolutionaries, those orange revolutionaries backed by Obama and USAID and the Clinton Foundation and, of course, Soros, we know that the operation to overthrow them and to, organize the protesters and stuff was run by Brzezinski, of all people. We know that they had been grooming them for quite some time since Soros' failed Orange Revolution there. And now this Ukraine leader who was installed by these fake revolutionaries and community agitators, is already in Washington, D.C. As a matter of fact, somebody I know in D.C. saw the motorcade going by. He will be meeting with Obama on Wednesday and then speaking at the UN on Thursday. I don't know why they automatically just recognize this guy who was put in by revolutionaries, overthrew the elected president, and now he's got credibility. Where'd he get this credibility? You know, they just put you in and now you're the boss? Nice gig, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Ukraine began military drills as Russian forces tightened their hold on the Crimean Peninsula, and the Foreign Ministry in Moscow warned of lawlessness in the former Soviet Republic's eastern provinces. This is from Bloomberg. Ukraine's armed forces are testing the combat readiness of troops, the Defense Ministry said today on its website. Russia is wresting control of Crimea, home to its Black Sea Fleet, from Ukraine following last month's ouster of the former Soviet Republic's Moscow-backed president, Viktor Yanukovych. Ukraine says its neighbor has almost 19,000 soldiers in the region, which will vote on joining Russia on March 16th. Now, you see, they make a big deal out of this, having 19,000 soldiers in there. Putin has a contract with the Ukrainian government. He can have up to 22,000 soldiers there. He has bases there. So what you only have one.
Speaking of Russian contracts, think back to last fall when the we were training Russian troops for national United States emergencies.
Right.
I put some links in Facebook about it today. So where the heck are all them guys? 15,000
yeah, well,
troops.
Obama's threatening to end that.
They were also training them at Fort Carson. And the thing that was alarming about it is they were training them to respond to national emergencies in the United States. Floods, hurricanes, whatever.
Well, Obama, when he said he'll have more flexibility after the election, I don't know if he meant that he's going to be working more cooperatively with Putin, or he was blowing Putin off because he knew this was coming. Now, remember, we had asked, well, if Palin knew what was going on and Mitt Romney knew what was going on, how come Obama didn't know what was going on?
Because he doesn't go to any national security meetings.
No.
I'm making a joke.
The national security guy said, yes, he did know. We told him because they look really bad right now. You know, what are they telling Palin something and Romney something, but they're not telling Obama? And shouldn't we ask Clapper and Donlin and all, you know, the CIA, NSA, everybody? Shouldn't we ask how come Obama didn't know about it? Obama doesn't need to know about it. Obama knew all along what was going on. He doesn't need our official intel. He's got his own. This isn't something that happened overnight. This has been planned and plotted since before the Orange Revolution. It failed, that Orange Revolution, so that this is a second shot at it. So
sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I wonder he skips these meetings and then they immediately make news. So then he can say, "Oh, I didn't know about that because I didn't go to the meeting. I had to play golf." So sometimes I think that's his way out.
Oh, it is, and it's worked very well for him. But I got to tell you something else right now. You know, not on this. This is not going to work. Absolutely not going to work, because you don't have a standby president when the Middle East is in an uproar. The Russians are taking over Crimea. That's a given. They're not going to give the Crimea back. And he might even take a couple of provinces in the eastern Ukraine. Merkel's not going to do anything. Cameron's not going to do anything. They need that gas coming out of Russia and being piped into Europe. So they're talking about sanctions on this and sanctions on that, but they're actually not going to do anything. So Putin gets away with it. You know, Obama's hemming and hawing.
But we did an executive order on Thursday.
Yeah, we did. And it included the whole country, especially the West Coast. Why do we need executive order putting the country under a state of emergency? You know what that means. He can suspend elections. He can do whatever he wants if we're under a state of emergency. But then he goes off and wouldn't be that big of an emergency.
December 2011, there's an executive order where he put us under a state of emergency in regards to Iran. And then shortly after that, the March 16th, 2012, an executive order where he takes control of everything came out.
Well, this is only going to escalate, and we better. I don't know what this week is going to bring, but if the chips hit the fan, it'll probably be within the next few days, because this can't continue anymore. In the Middle East, of course, Kerry's got that all screwed up, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But I see that our very special guest, Carol, is here. So before I open up Carol's microphone, though, I want to talk about one more thing. Cheryl Atkinson. Cheryl Atkinson is a reporter for CBS, or a former reporter for CBS. Cheryl Atkinson was the one that was doing the exhaustive research, along with Mike Vanderboe and Sipsey Street Irregulars, David Codrea, and Anthony Martin. They were all working on it and interacting with each other. She got so much crap and blocked every time she opened her mouth. Then the Benghazi issue. She reported on that, and then she got bams. They took her off the air. This woman, her computer was hacked by the NSA. Her bosses were screwing with her. They wouldn't put her on the air. Everything this woman tried to do, but they had her under contract, so they silenced her. Well, she quit today. She's writing a book. She, did the nice things. Okay, it was a pleasure working CBS and all of that. Well, after that, Breitbart and the Daily Caller come out with an article. It says CBS News president's brother of Obama's national security official. This was before, actually. It was Saturday. Will he oust Benghazi reporter Atkinson? Now, she quit today. This come out Saturday. Saturday morning, Patrick Howley of the Daily Caller dropped another nuke on the fire. That's the Benghazi gate. Howley connects the dots surrounding a number of recent leaks coming out of CBS News about the fate of its award-winning investigative reporter Cheryl Atkinson. From the beginning, Atkinson has been one of the few mainstream journalists willing to dig into the September 11th terror attack in Libya and the administration's response to it, fearing the story might lead exactly where it did yesterday with Jonathan Kyle's bombshell report. The mainstream media has poured most of its energy into wishing the story away or playing palace guard for the White House. Atkinson's dogged pursuit of the truth has not only pitted her against media desperate to protect Obama, but also apparently against her bosses at CBS News, one of whom is the brother of a top Obama official. Moreover, CBS News President David Rhodes is not only the brother of President Obama's national security advisor, Ben Rhodes, but ABC News reports that Ben Rhodes was very much involved in the editing of now infamous CIA talking points. So, according to ABC News, Obama's national security advisor, Ben Rhodes, was deeply involved in the editing of the CIA talking points, like the video thing. These same CIA talking points are central to what many believe is a White House cover-up. Ben Rhodes is the brother of CBS News president, David Rhodes. At CBS News, Cheryl Atkinson is one of the only mainstream media journalists with a dogged determination and moral courage to demand the truth about the White House involvement in the CIA talking points. And number 5, for months now, reports have surfaced that Atkinson's bosses are unhappy with her, that she has trouble getting her Libya stories on the air, and that she's being accused of engaging in advocacy. She wasn't advocating anything. She was trying to report news. So she's writing a book, and it's being published by News Corp. If Roger Ailes is smart, which I believe he is, he will pick her up in a heartbeat. So I just wanted to tell everybody that that's what's going on. What do you think of that, JoJo?
I'm glad. I'm sure she was under contract and had trouble getting out of it, but more the merrier. I mean, there's been an anvil lifted off her shoulders. She could, start being a reporter now. She's got freedom now.
Yeah, well,
even if she just does a blog, she can just do her own blog and, charge to read it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, well, if Roger Ailes is smart over at News Corp, he'll pick her up. If not, I'm sure the Daily Caller or the Blaze or one of them will pick her up. All right, now, without further ado, I see that our own financial guru, teammate, researcher is here, and if I can open up her microphone, I'll introduce you. There you go. Hey, Carol Ray, how are you?
Hey, ladies, how are y'all?
Hey, Carol.
Very good.
Hey, JoJo.
Hey, Carol, before you get started on your financial stuff, something just popped up I need to report on. This just came up. Louisiana lawmakers want to keep a state database of people who have abortions. Now, first of all, let me say I'm not for abortions, but Bobby Jindal is losing his mind. He wants to keep a database of people who have had medication abortions, as well as restrict access to surgical abortion through Texas-style regulations aimed to shutter clinics and intimidate physicians. Now then, I'm okay with making the whole deal with this is if you perform abortions, you're supposed to have admitting privileges to a hospital in case something goes wrong.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with that. But, you know, this database, I mean, it's just more big government.
I am strictly opposed to that. I'm opposed to abortion, too. I am pro-life. However, a database of people's abortions, do we have a database of people's appendectomies? Do we need I mean, that's really private, really, really private. And although I am totally against it, I'm also against violating people's privacy. So that's going to go nowhere, and it just makes them look foolish. Drop that. You know.
And here's the legislative, whatever you call it. If a physician prescribes, dispenses, administers, or provides any drug or chemical to a pregnant woman for the purpose of inducing an abortion as defined in RS 40, blah, 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 the physician shall report the abortion to the Department of Health and Hospital. Now, let me back up. What this means is if you're raped, because I'm an emergency room nurse, if you're raped and you come to the emergency room, you have the option of taking what is it called?
Abortifacient.
After the rape pill or something. I can't remember what it's called. It's a pill you can take that will, and it's like within 12, 24, 36 hours of being raped, okay? You have that option of taking this pill. That's going to include that. So, anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't know about a
more
database.
Big Brother government, if you ask me. We have too many databases now.
Yeah, well, they already know what type of drugs are out there and how many are prescribed. They don't need to know prescribed to who. All right. Carol, thank you for sitting back and listening to us. Thank you very much for that special report, JoJo, too. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Hey, JoJo, you remember Jindal was over in the Asian countries concerning about the TPP?
Oh,
yeah,
that? TPP, too. Oh, yeah, that was only 2 months ago. 6 weeks
put
ago.
that up on the blackboard, too.
And then while we're on Jindal, he's not eligible to run for president either. His parents, if you believe in the natural-born citizen theory, and by the original Constitution, his parents were here on work visas when he was born. He was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, but his parents were not citizens. Anyway, so we can move on from Jindal, but and he's big into TPP.
But I just wanted to throw that in because that's proven another point. I have a serious problem with a lot of these GOP and, of course, the Democratic Party and the progressives and stuff, because you're seeing a parallel of them going with a lot of the things that the Democratic parties are pushing and all, but it's just behind the back curtains. And talking about Ukraine, last night, you remember, Joanne, I had posted an article about their gold was shipped to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, tell our listeners about that. They packed up that gold, put it in an unmarked plane.
Right. 14 crates of it was packed up and sent to Uncle Sam. So I'm pretty sure, I think everybody else can agree that they won't ever see it again, because if you remember, Germany has been having a serious problem getting back their gold as other countries. So they might as well kiss that goodbye. It's gone. They've been fleeced.
Yeah, they got robbed.
Right, and on that EO that was signed, isn't it strange that China allowed a bond to default? First time that has ever happened. Right at they signed, let's see, the bond default was I called it Thursday night, late Thursday night, which would have been Friday morning, and all. And then the EO was signed. When was it signed? Friday, if I'm not mistaken. All right. The EO, a lot of people are reading about visa on the EO. You're forgetting about the properties and all, which I truly, and JoJo can agree with me on this, because she found, what was his name, Pete Santelli? Is that right, JoJo?
Yeah, Santelli.
Okay. He agrees that first part of that EO is aimed at China. All right. In 2008, in a Bloomberg article, George W. Bush was pushing for China to purchase security mortgage bonds and all. So to me, that means that China might be trying to show the emperor that they have, as Putin stated, that they can hurt this economy. So my thinking is, if China continues on allowing bonds to default, who owes China money? What country?
Us.
All right. Mortgages are purchased through FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, and all. That's government, right?
Yeah.
All right, so if China comes to our doors, the D.C. door, asking for their money, who can they confiscate? They can confiscate the investments that they have put into this country. In other words, they can go after mortgages. They can go after the businesses that they have funded. A lot of things could affect us from just that, not just what Putin is doing. So, I mean, that's something that everybody needs to remember. You know, that EO, yeah, the visa, but also about the properties. So everybody needs to remember that. And like I said, George W. Bush pushed that in 2008.
Yep, and really, we better figure out what we have for collateral. And why did China miss the bond payment? It's not because they don't have the money. Did they do it intentionally? And what are you going to do, chase me?
Well, the thing is, it was with I don't know how to pronounce this, so y'all forgive me. I'm just going to spell it. It was CHAORI, Solar Energy Science and Technology Company. All right, it's a manufacturer of solar panels. Now, they had told China that they were fixing to default on some of their bills and things. I think they were short of $660,000. All right, China in the past has always bailed them out. And China allowed this to happen. China is like us. They can print their money just like we can print ours. So there was no excuse for them to allow that to default.
Yeah, well, China's getting a little nervous with Obama, too. You see that he's got all those ships up there in the Black Sea now. He's got the Middle East surrounded. And remember, they said they were going to pivot to Southeast Asia. And incrementally, he's putting all kinds of assets all around China and Japan. So China's probably thinking that he's going to try to isolate them.
Well, China has agreed. If y'all remember, China agreed on March the 3rd that they were backing Russia concerning Ukraine and all. And then you've got India that had came out last night stating that they supported Putin. So you've got the ones that are in the BRIC nation, or the BRIC agenda. You remember they were forming their own little organization. And
BRICS was almost 2 years ago. Brazil, right? Russia, India, China, and
they added an S for South Africa.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of these countries that are involved in BRICS are now coming about in supporting China. I mean, supporting Putin.
Russia.
And you know, how can you say to blame them? Because I mean, they've all pledged to do, their own international banking system. They're dropping the dollar, as we have known for months and months. And
years.
So, yeah. Exactly. What, for 2 years they've been doing this?
2 years. So this whole thing didn't happen overnight. This has been
it didn't
going
happen
on
overnight.
for at least 2 years.
They've been trying to get rid of the petrodollar for 2 years. It's just like it's all over the internet. It's a chess game.
Yeah,
actually,
it's a chess game. It's who's moving the pawn. And then you've got Brzezinski, who is tied to CSIS. And I don't have the documentation in front of me. But that is also George Soros' organization.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got them too. And Brzezinski hates Putin. And in his book, and I have told people, you can go online and read it. You can go in and just read some of the quotes. Right.
Okay.
It's called the Grand Chessboard. And he talks about surrounding Putin with NATO. So, I mean, they've been telling all their plots and plans for a long time. It's just, as I have stated in the past, everybody was too busy raising their families, taking care of their own business, and, how many people are going to give up their television to read a book? But all their strategies and things have been written in a lot of their books. They're not hiding it, y'all. They're telling it. We just got to get the incentive to read their books that they're writing.
Absolutely. Hey, the Treasuries rallied today, although the market
was did.
down.
Well, it slightly rallied. It would not be rallying like it does if the Federal Reserve was not doing PUMOs. That means that they are injecting funds into the stock market. If it wasn't for that, I have no doubt whatsoever that it would plummet more. And
Joanne and I were talking earlier. At the tune of about $2 billion a day for the last week, we were guessing the stock market really ought to be down about 3,000 points. So what do you think, Carol?
Yeah, I think so, because the last time, when was it, about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, they dropped down $3 trillion. And I have tried to stress to people, in 2008, the stock market plummeted $3.5 trillion. That's only $0.5 trillion off from what it was in 2008. So people, the Federal Reserve is doing their rabbit trick. They're pulling their rabbits out of their hats and putting it into the stock market. And this is a daily thing, except I do know from the Federal Reserve website that I go to and snoop around, they will be not doing one on March 19th. They have not indicated why they're not going to do one on that date.
Do you know March 19th is the day that Michelle is supposed to be in China on her vacation? The 19th to the 24th.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's right. And, maybe she can do some. It's just amazing that they've got it listed. Where I go, they've got it listed day by day how much they're going to inject into the stock market. And that day they don't have a thing. But the next
they wouldn't
day
be injecting. They wouldn't be injecting billions billions unless they expected that market to drop at least 500 points and set off the alarm.
And it would. Listen, people, there are articles that came out last night where it was stating that small businesses are closing by the hundreds. You've got McDonald's reported today, U.S. sales longest negative streak in over a decade. Then you've got Walmart CEO, a economist that they had hired, recommended them to close 100 stores in rural areas. And then you've got long crude oil speculation bets rise to all-time high. You've got Boeing that is dropping 68,000 employees' pensions. I mean, it's just, the economy is not getting better, as we three have stated, and we have stressed everybody. 2014 is going to be a terrible year. We've got inflation hitting us. Everybody can see where the groceries and things are going up. And this is a planned agenda. It is totally planned. They've had it planned for a long time. It's to bring us down on our knees. As I have stated, former World Bank President Wolferson stated to Stanford Business, to the students, that China would have 80% of the middle class 80%, y'all, of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Does that not give y'all any indications? I mean, y'all two know, but does that give everybody else an indication where we're heading?
Oh, yeah.
And he wouldn't be stating that unless he knew it was true.
Our trade deficit, is like $480 billion. So we're importing at least $480 billion more than we're exporting. And Carol's right, too. Sears said it's going to shutter its flagship stores in downtown Chicago in April, and it's about 300 store closings in the U.S. that they're going to go through. Macy's, the same thing. Target said that they're going to...
You've got Radio Shack fixing to close. You've got Staples, 225 stores. I mean, sure, everybody says, oh, well, these stores kind of rip us off their prices. It doesn't matter. We're not thinking about the people that they employ. And
right.
The unemployment is actually, right, the unemployment is 45%. It's not what the TV news faux junket tells everybody that it's 6.7. It's not that. It's 45. And people would think 48% of the Americans are on some type of government supplement. And
right.
that tell everybody something.
That's right. That means only 53% of the people who are actually working are covering all those bills. And they talk about the 1% and taxing them even more. How about we create some jobs? How about everybody be wealthy? You know,
That's just it.
Wealth redistribution.
And their plan is they're not creating jobs. They're sending everything overseas. We know that for a fact.
Even chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
And even the document that I had told y'all about and had sent y'all that was in 1967, they were planning for a new monetary system even back then. And, I mean, this has been going on for a long time, and it's finally, they've been just taking their time, a little bit at a time. And then when we got the emperor in, hey, he's pushing just as hard as he can to finish up what they want.
Exactly. Because it started, I mean, I know a lot of our listeners are Bush fans and all that. You know, whatever. I'm not for or against Bush or Daddy Bush, the one that is my culprit.
Well,
but anyway, it's been going on. It's been going on since before Bush.
Right.
Carter.
It's been, well, you talk about, I mean, here we go in with the Republican and Democratic parties. You've got FDR. You've got Woodrow Wilson. You've got Nixon. You've got LBJ. You've got, George Ball, who wrote that document, who testified before the Senate in 1967, was in John F. Kennedy's administration. Then you've got Nixon. You've got Eisenhower. You can find something on every blooming one of them if people wanted to really look for it. And every one of them has been working towards this. They've been pushing it forever. Pop Bush, old man Bush, hey, he got up before on the television, if you were listening to it in 1991, saying the New World Order and the UN would be successful.
That document you mentioned about 1967, Lyndon Baines Johnson gave a speech about one global currency.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And this is what's been going on. You've got, I had mentioned Thursday night when I was on another show, a dear friends of yours, and well, of all of ours, and the OECD is an organization for economic cooperation. They are some of the pull stringers on this. They met with the, let me think. I have to go back and read all my notes. They met with the IRS, G8, G20, and all to discuss not only a global tax, but a global currency. And this was even discussed, at the G20 meeting. They met with the International Monetary Fund at the 2009, right after Obama was elected. So, I mean, all these things that we're seeing, jobs being shipped overseas and all, our economy going down, it's all been in the works. And it's not going to get better, y'all. I'm telling you, just like JoJo and Joanne have preached to everybody, it is not getting better. We're seeing more and more people.
And no matter if we have our own oil and our own refineries and our own natural gas, with Ukraine and Russia and all this going on, and if they shut off gasoline to Europe and wherever else, our gas prices will go up sky high. It matters not that we have our own. It matters not. And I don't even know where to begin to predict it. But if you remember, in 2007 or 8, Obama said he thought gasoline prices should be $7 or $8 a gallon.
Right.
Don't forget he said that. And he
That's
is on.
Right.
He's on the short. He's on the short end of the stick. He's got 2 years left in office to get his job done. And remember what Michelle said: 4 years is not enough to get our job done or our whatever. Remember she said that?
They are being. The strings are tied to them, just like the rest of them. There's others above them, just like the imp from Hades, George Soros, and you can go enough, you've got Rockefeller and all of them. If people will take the time to do research, they can find out where Rockefeller, has been involved in it through his foundations and stuff. Ford Foundation, all these foundations that were investigated by the Reese Committee, I think it was back in the 1950s, and all, they said that these foundations were helping to push communism. So they are.
Yeah. The White House is quietly dropping their export goal, too, by the way. Market Watch says, it says the White House's 2014 economic report that the president makes no mention of the export goal. In the 2010 State of the Union address, Obama set a goal to double the U.S. exports over 5 years. The starting date for the goal was 2009, and it's supposed to end in 2014. Well, there's only 4 quarters left. And he's well short. Our exports have only grown 35%, but our imports have increased 100%.
Yeah.
So there's 170%
we're buying Chinese
deficit.
And everybody else's junk, and we're not producing, and that's another signal that things are not rocking along like the way they tell us. And these 2 new treaties, and all that. Nobody, I don't think any of us have seen any more about it. It's been very hush, hasn't it?
Well, let me just say something, because this came out in a little chat group thing today, and I can't quote it verbatim. But basically, the subject of China siding with Russia came up, and someone said, well, China's not going to do that because they import too much of their junk they make over to the U.S. And several people said, whoa, wait a minute.
Then why was China at the G20 meeting demanding a new reserve currency by the year 2015? And China's going to be the big guy. We're going to be a third world nation. We might as well face that. They're distributing our taxes and stuff. We're paying $100 million to OECD to meet with the Irish Institute of Taxes, with the G20, G8, and our own IRS to decide on a global tax on us.
But let's go back to China and this executive order. This executive order says you can't do X, Y, and Z with Russia and blah, 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 blah. So if it comes down to China backing Russia, like they've said they would, does that mean that the executive order means we can't import any more of China's junk to Walmart? If that happens, then all of Walmart will shut down.
Good. That is a good statement. And
Walmart is the biggest employer in the country.
Right. I really don't think they care if we live or die. I'm just being very truthful.
Oh, no, that's obvious.
Yeah, they don't care. Everything is aimed at China. Even Rothschild in a Jewish newspaper, I think it was, what is it called, Haaretz, H-A-R-T-E-Z or something like that?
Yes.
Right, said they had their eyes on China. And, Rothschild, if people will look where Quantum Fund, George Soros has got his money to set up his Quantum Fund investment, came from Rothschild. And in the encyclopedia, or the Wikipedia, it says, and other elites. All right, it doesn't tell the other ones are, but I bet you one of them was Rockefeller.
Oh, yeah.
But Rothschild financed George Soros.
Yeah. Zero Hedge put out an article today, too, the Holy Grail of Trading. HFT firm reveals one losing trading day in 1,238 days of trading, and J.P. Morgan had no trading day losses. It goes on to explain how these HFTs, they manipulate the market from the top down by the Fed itself. It says all HFTs really do is simply enable the Fed policy at the micro level, and thus such crimes are not only ignored but welcomed. What it says is these people skim a little off of every publicly traded company. And it says, this, ladies and gentlemen, is why retail has given up. When companies want to go public and no longer even hide the secret sauce, which confirms beyond a reasonable doubt that there is a two-tier market, one in which the HFTs just never lose, and one for everyone else. Well, who would want to play in a casino so explicitly rigged? Now, Zero Hedge is usually very reasonable. He's accurate to a fault. So if he's telling you the markets are rigged, which is something he never would have done 3 years ago, they're rigged.
Well, I mean, we've been saying the stock market is manipulated, and it is manipulated. Jamie Dimon sits on the board of the Federal Reserve. And I mean, they have got their inside group that is controlling not only the stock market, but our financial situation that's in our country. And all these tarps and everything else that they so-called give for the economic growth has been baloney. It's not helped one single business. Matter of fact, now it's hard to even get a loan from a bank, and all because they've got so many stipulations on it. I thought that money was supposed to be given to businesses to help growth, to employ people, but it's not. And
no.
So, I mean, you know, this, hey, what Scott did the other day concerning that video when y'all were talking about the New World Order, that our, you know, that's what we are. We are the New World Order.
I thought they were coming to get us, and I realized we are the New World Order. I got one more.
Yeah, he called that the Moretti Minute. I thought that was genius of him.
Yes, it was. I thought it was excellent. I mean, he could not have done a better job because y'all put the words in it, and then he did the animation and everything else. It was a fantastic video, and it has spread all over Facebook, I can assure you.
Oh, really? Great.
Yeah. And because people are starting to realize what is happening, and they know, you know, everybody can sense that the economy is not getting better. It's not out of the ICU like our government tells it.
And we're getting worse. You know the biggest biggest money laundering scheme, even bigger than the green loans, is Obamacare.
Right.
Obamacare.
Right.
Every single dime.
H&R Block, and all those other kind of places are automatically, when you go do your tax forms and you check, do you have insurance? There's a thing on there when I did my have insurance, check yes or no. They're automatically helping the government out and feeding them your information off the tax form.
Well, you read the article where these restaurants are starting to charge a 5% surcharge. I was telling a lot of people on Facebook the other day, we're paying for a private insurance, which the premiums went up, by the way. We're paying for Medicaid. We're paying for, you know, employees' insurance. It's all going in a pot. And now we're being charged again, so that makes, 3 times we're being charged for Obamacare?
Oh, and it's going to get worse. It's getting worse, too, guys.
Ask them for your order. Is that surcharge going to be on here? If they say yes, sorry, I'm out of here.
Yeah, well, that's small compared to the trillions that we've already had stripped from us. Obamacare. Does it even exist at all? I mean, he delays it and delays it and delays it, but what he doesn't delay is the money. He's taking money out of our treasury, give it to CMS, give it to the company up in Canada, give it to the new company. All these alleged health care exchanges in every state. Hold on one second. Hold on, let me finish.
All right.
When every one of these states for these exchanges is getting millions and millions of dollars and not signing anybody up. Do you know that CMS just awarded $58 million to a company it already fired? So where's that money going? It's obviously not going to the company they fired. Every one of these exchanges, who do you know has $1 trillion website? All right? They could have done it for $100. So our money, we've already lost over $1 trillion. You're not getting any benefits from it. You're not getting any exchanges from it. You're not even getting a website from it. You lost $1 trillion, and you're still paying out through the nose. You're even, like JoJo and Carol just said, you're going to lose your tax refunds if you don't have any insurance. And they don't even care if you actually have any insurance. They don't care any about that. What they care about was $1 trillion they got their hands on.
Went up, but the insurance company stocks went up, and like I've been saying, George Soros has abundance invested in those insurance companies. He's making a fortune just like he's making off the fracking. He's got investments in the fracking. He's got investments in the health care. Anything that the emperor is putting on us, George Soros is making a mint of money. He was in that green solar agenda. The green, energy.
Wait, that's where I want to go with this. Think back. The Solyndra, the green energy scam from, 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
That was a stepping stone. That was a lesson plan. That was peanuts compared to Obamacare, and it's all the same Ponzi scheme.
Right. Yeah, well, that was a $700 billion money laundering. This is well over $1 trillion.
Right. And like I said, George Soros and all is making a killing off of us, y'all. I can't, it's amazing. Everything that the emperor endorses or forces on us, George Soros is behind it. He's got 940,000 shares in a oil company in Texas that's doing fracking. So you imagine how much money that man is making from that. Then I forgot how many thousands of shares that he's got in all these insurance companies and stuff. So he's making a killing off of it. And
he spends a lot of money on all these revolutions he's holding all around the world, and we are funneling the money back to him.
Right, exactly. And then top it off, we're giving $1 billion to Ukraine. Carrie, since we're giving $1 billion to Ukraine, Ukraine needs $37 billion.
And they're giving it to a guy who just overthrew the president. How do we know to trust this guy?
Supposed to be giving money. But guess who gives the money to EU? We do. Yeah. We've been bailing out these countries that have been flaking off the earth ever since, the pigs came out and said that they were needing money. We're floating money over to that agenda. Us taxpayers are the bank for the world.
Yeah, we just gave the IMF another $80 billion.
IMF, UN, NATO, we're the main money backers. That's just a start.
Yeah, so they're taking it out of your pocket and spreading it around the world, making sure that Soros gets his piece, making sure Buffett gets his piece, and Gates and all the rest of them, J.P. Morgan. None of those people have gone to jail. You got an 80-year-old in jail, 81-year-old for feeding birds, but Jamie Dimon is still walking the streets. Soros is still walking the streets.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, it is the biggest, and I can't stress, biggest Ponzi scheme that was ever created on this earth. And that's
absolutely.
That's what it is. And we're down at the very bottom, and they're at the very top. The ones at the very top are the ones that reap in the funds. The ones on the bottom are the ones that get gypped. And that is exactly what it is. The banks are involved, the Federal Reserve's involved, George Soros is involved, the Rockefellers, the Carnegie Foundation, you've got the Ford Foundation, and you've got even the Rothschilds that are involved. And so, it's a pyramid. Total pyramid.
And they're trying to take over the world, and Putin is one of the few that are resisting.
Well, now, I have read articles, and I'll be very honest. Putin supports a new world order. Now, I can't figure out what type of world order he wants, or if he's going into the agenda with them and he's just doesn't like some of the things that they're doing. Because when Pop Bush got on television in 1991, he was talking about the New World Order. There was a woman in Brussels that came back and said, "Oh, no, and we're going to do it different." And she was with the Socialist International, which is a branch of the United Nations. I can't think of what her name is, but it's from Brussels. And but everything is being pushed. Is the European Union we created. It's history. So we are, as you say, we're not really the New World Order. It's them that are the World Order. We're just the sheeple.
Yeah, we're the finance.
No, but we're still, like we said the other night, when you look at the stacked deck of cards in this administration, we are the New World Order.
Right.
That you look. Yeah. But let's just back up a minute. I want to talk about it. Just a couple things about, because this is the big picture. Let's back off to the little picture. The little picture is, if you had a tax refund that came to your checking account, you need to go change your checking account number. I'm sure they can still find you. If you're banking with Chase or Bank of America or any of these other banks that are involved in this, cancel your credit card. Move your money to a credit union or a small-town bank. I mean, you can't just keep on griping about what's happening, keep feeding the beast,
Well, see, that's another thing that was discussed at that Irish Tax Center with OECD and our IRS and all. They're going to keep a track. 40 countries agreed, including our country, agreed to not only keep up track of everything that we're spending and our taxes and stuff, but to share our private information with another country.
Yep. And
just back to small town stuff, every single time you use a debit card, they know everything about you. They know your habits. Start spending cash while you still can. That debit card is nothing but a scheme to know everything. Yeah, it knows everything about you. It knows what you eat, what you smoke, what you drink, movies you watch, whatever. Where you shop.
Right. And also they're planning on, if you notice, a lot of the your driver's license are going to have the RFID tracking.
Yep.
Plus, license tags they're going to be able to keep up with everything where you travel and all this. Just like I have mentioned that over in UK, they even have a device on their garbage cans which indicates how much garbage they throw away. They have no privacy whatsoever. And in comments under articles from the newspapers in UK and all, they are telling everybody in the United States not to give in, not to allow what has happened to them happen to us, not to give up our protection.
Yes.
Do whatever you can to try to stop this, because those people are they're miserable. They have no freedom whatsoever. And, of course, we're getting that way.
Is anybody seeing the new $100 bill? The new $100 bill is very ominous looking. It's got all kinds of little high-tech things in it. And I haven't read up on it. I've been meaning to just research that, and I haven't. But the new $100 bill...
Yeah, it looks like Monopoly money.
Well, it's got, big...
Well, ladies, I know y'all got other things to discuss and all, but, I hope I've helped some tonight to indicate where we're going, because... and another thing, I want to say this, and I mentioned it last night, Joanne. You remember this. I don't know if JoJo saw it or not. If China keeps on defaulting their bonds and all, what did I say about the T-bonds?
Oh, they're going right in the toilet. Forget it.
Right. So, I mean, if we keep pressing on China, and China's going to come back at us full speed ahead, because Putin...
You have to dump all those treasury bonds, and then we're done.
Right. Putin stated, and I think he was even including China, because China agrees with Putin and them, that they could destroy our economy, and they can.
Right. Just by dumping those bonds, it'll destroy the dollar. Carol, I want to thank you, honey, for coming on. You blow us away with all this information, but it's got to be told.
Well, it's time for all of us to know the truth, who is behind it, what's happening to us, and all, because we've got to use our common sense to get, to try to do the best we can. One of the worst things we can do is ask the government to help us, and I'm not asking them for 1 red cent. I'm not asking them for a crumb of bread. And all, I am an individual, and as far as I'm concerned, I am free, and I will remain free until my death. And all.
Yeah,
but anyway, I love you ladies, and I appreciate y'all so much. And just God bless y'all, and God bless your listeners. And I guess I'll be talking to you the next time something really comes up.
That'll be about
right.
10 minutes. That'll be about 10 minutes from now.
Yeah,
really.
probably so. I haven't checked the Asian market yet.
Oh,
and all. But anyway, y'all have a good night. Oh, and they're going to do a
hold
Puma
on.
tomorrow. Huh?
They're going to do a what tomorrow?
They're going to do a Puma tomorrow. The Federal Reserve will be doing one tomorrow. It'll probably be between 2 to 2.5 billion, like they did today.
Yeah, that's like 8 days in a row now.
Before you go, there's something that we've all missed that we all need to check into as soon as we get a chance. Because
what
we've
is
been
that?
too busy. The 2015 budget proposal that Obama put out last Thursday, they got totally ignored and overlooked. There's supposed to be some pretty vile, ominous stuff stuck in it, but none of us have had time to look at it. So,
$1 billion tax increase on us. I haven't really dug into it, but I think that was one of the things that they were discussing. And of course, a lot of people says, "Well, Congress won't allow that to happen." We'll wait to see what Congress doesn't do. And because that's what they've not been doing. They've not been doing anything to help us out of this mess that we're in except get up there and fuss and fight.
That's right.
But anyway, I love y'all ladies, and I love you listeners, and good night.
Good night.
All right, good night, Carol. Thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Carol Ray. Hey, everybody, we're back. You're listening to Moretti Underground, the Liberty Report, right here at PRN Radio Network. We are the best news on the web. Hey, JoJo, we're back. You got anything you want to bring up before we do a lightning round?
I want to say happy birthday to Chuck Norris. 74 years ago today, he pulled himself from his mother's womb and slapped the doctor. Happy birthday, Chuck.
Well, happy birthday, Chuck Norris.
I have to say I stole that from somebody off of Facebook, but I couldn't help it.
Hey, all right, want to do a lightning round? We've got a ton of stuff here we got to get to real fast.
Ooh, yeah, we only got 30
all
minutes.
Right. Yep. The IRS is silent on Center for American Progress's coordination with the White House. From the Daily Caller, the IRS has still not responded to allegations from a former Center for American Progress employee that the left-wing think tank coordinates on editorial content with the White House, revelations that could threaten the organization's nonprofit status. It says former Think Progress reporter Zaid Jilani wrote a piece this week detailing his experience working for the Liberal Blog, which is run by CAP's 501c4 nonprofit Action Fund, the advocacy arm of the White House counselor John Podesta's think tank. It says when he started working at Think Progress at the Center for American Progress Action Fund in 2009, he did because it was an awesome platform to do good journalism. He knew that he had disagreed with CAP on a number of issues. Anyhow, one of the controversial topics was a very constrained in his writing at Think Progress was Afghanistan. CAP had decided not to protest Obama's surge, so most of the writing on the top was simply neutral. All right, now, that's run by John Podesta. He's now the chief of staff at the White House. He runs Think Progress, the Center for American Progress, and he's coordinating with the White House. So that's not what 501c4 does. And if they are coordinating, then that takes away their nonprofit, although I'm sure it's not going to go anywhere. The IRS hired an al-Qaeda spy. This is from Investors Business Daily. The IRS is diligent to a fault when it comes to vetting conservative groups applying for nonprofit status, but it's out to lunch when vetting employees posing security risks. While the Internal Revenue Service was investigating Tea Party patriots in the run-up to last year's presidential election, it dispensed with basic background checks and hired a convicted Islamist traitor as a high-level official. Mohammed Weiss Rasool, whom the FBI busted last decade for tipping off an al-Qaeda terrorist suspect, reportedly now works for the Deputy IRS Chief Financial Officer as a financial management analyst, drawing a lucrative salary at taxpayer expense. According to investigative reporter Patrick Poole, who broke the exclusive story in PJ Media, the Obama administration has let a Muslim man convicted of abusing sensitive government data have access to the sensitive financial data of millions of Americans at an agency known for abusing such information. So that's not the only terrorist we have. Think about that. In Connecticut, let's talk about guns for a second. In Connecticut, there was this man. He did a video about, he's a Navy veteran, and he's a former firefighter. His name is John Sink. And he made national news after telling state lawmakers he would not comply with gun registration. Well, he briefly commented on the officer's statement in a discussion with gubernatorial candidate Joe Visconti last Friday. He says he's had contact with a police officer in his hometown. He lives in Brantford. And his words straight out were, "I cannot wait to get the order to kick your door in." In an exclusive interview with StoryLeak, Sink further detailed the disturbing comments made by Brantford police officer Joseph Peterson, one of the state's most highly decorated officers. It happened on Facebook. He posted to a thread on his wall, Sink said. "I've known him personally for 20 years. He was interacting with other friends of mine, and it was directly about the video." In multiple screenshots captured from the lengthy conversation, Peterson continuously argued that law enforcement were not obligated to defy unconstitutional laws. Instead, Peterson said that he would follow any order given, even if it meant confiscating firearms from close friends. "But like I said, I don't make the law," Peterson told Sink. "But if it comes down to it, then I guess we'll see how you would respond." He says, "I'm not going for any warrants, but if my department gets them and we have to serve them, I'll see you there." So here's this cop who took an oath to the Constitution saying even if it's unconstitutional, he's going to go and confiscate guns, and he can't wait to kick in Sink's door to take Sink's gun specifically.
Well, I read an article from a policeman, and he said that most cops that have 15 years or better on the department are old-school police officers. He said the new breed, the ones that have less than 15 years experience on the force, is a whole new breed of police, and he doesn't like it. So.
Yeah, well, all the cops I know must be old school, too, because I tell you, I don't think that they're going to be looking forward to going confiscating people's guns, that's for sure. Hey, Jojo, did you hear that DHS told the Border Patrol to run and hide?
Yeah.
If confronted?
What, a cactus?
Yeah, well, doesn't that allow armed criminals to freely cross into the United States unimpeded? If our Border Patrol are told to run?
Well,
yeah, this new guy, Jay Johnson. Yeah, well, he told... go ahead.
Another piece of work.
Oh, yeah. Well, he told 21,000 Border Patrol officers to retreat whenever illegal immigrants throw rocks at them and to avoid getting in front of foreign drug smuggling vehicles as they head north with their drug shipment. So they're just supposed to hide behind a rock when drug shipments are coming across the border. Why do we have Border Patrol at all?
Well, why do we have military? Because that's about the same rules of engagement they have in Afghanistan, pretty close to it.
Yeah. Pretty much. That's exactly what they were told, too. Run and hide. Don't shoot at them. Don't shoot at them. Even if they're shooting at you, if there's any civilians in like a 100-mile radius or something. I'm paraphrasing there. I'm only kidding that. Did you know we have a change to our immigration law without the benefit of legislators or a bill or anything signed or anything? And this is going to sound heartless. This is going to sound heartless, but don't mistake what I'm saying, okay? Because they threw in the $10 heartbreak story so that people will think with their feelings instead of their heads. Obama the Constitution does not give the president any authority. He gets zero authority to write or rewrite legislation. He is supposed to enforce the laws, not write them, not change them. Listen to this story, and like I said, don't think with your heart, think with your head, because I'm not opposed to this. I'm opposed to the changes in the immigration. I'm not opposed to this story. Listen, it's immigration reform may be stalled in Congress. This is from Fox, by the way. But a new Obama administration policy is extending legal status and military benefits to thousands of illegal immigrants who are the spouses, parents, and children of American military members. Supporters say the policy, which applies to active duty military, reservists, and veterans, is long overdue. Those veterans and those men and women who serve in the National Guard certainly deserve the peace of mind that their family member will not be deported, immigration attorney Faye Colley said. But critics say the policy is tantamount to backdoor amnesty. A whole class of aliens with no right to be in the United States are suddenly going to be allowed to live and work here on the basis of their relationship with military and veterans, said Dan Cadman with the Center for Immigration Studies. The exemption called Parole in Place came in the form of a U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services Policy Memorandum. It was not submitted to or approved by Congress, and the regulations were not published in the Federal Register, which allows for public comment prior to rule taking effect. I don't want to overstate it, but it sounds very similar to imperial decree, if you ask me, Cadman said. The public had no chance to comment on this new policy. I believe the way this was done was illegal. Obama administration officials say the new rules do not require congressional action because they're based on existing statutes. It's clearly within the president's authority to enforce the law and choose which immigrants he thinks are the priority, said Brent Wilkes of the League of United Latin American Citizens. These folks aren't threats. They've got a relative that's serving in our nation. How does this guy know these people aren't threats? Mass murderers have brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers, too. Anyhow.
I have a problem, and I've had it for many years, and I never understood why. If you're not a United States citizen, that you're allowed in our military to begin with. We have, our kids have to jump through hoops to get in the military these days. You have to have a high school diploma, a GED, you got to have this, you got to have that. It just makes no sense to me. If you're not a U.S. citizen, why are you in our military to begin with?
Yeah, well, the story goes on about a soldier who was injured, and he's married to a woman who was brought to the U.S. illegally as a child, and without her, he'd be lost with his disabilities and stuff. So that's the part. I'm not opposed to that. If a soldier is married to an illegal alien, give them a green card. Don't change the freaking laws on your own. Shouldn't Congress have been consulted? Shouldn't the people have been consulted? You don't just change now he's taking the Border Patrol off the border. He's giving illegals automatic residency if they are related to a veteran or an active service member. Well, shouldn't we have a law for that? I mean, if this is a problem, shouldn't Congress say, okay, let's do this, let's make a bill, just a specific bill for these people, and do it that way? Obama doesn't get to do this himself, but he thinks he does.
Wait, if you're a United States citizen and you marry somebody from another country, don't you automatically get some kind of green card, visa, some kind of documentation, some kind of something that makes you not illegal anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, you get a residency permit or... Right.
You get something.
Yeah, and if you're married,
a Korean.
Yeah, and I'm sure she could become naturalized. But there's a process to go through. There's a process for that. Not just Obama with his pen and his phone. All right, we got a D.C. businessman who's charged with conspiracy for off-the-books donations to Hillary and others.
No, you're kidding.
Yep, WMAL, and also the Associated Press. Yeah, influential District of Columbia businessman Jeffrey Thompson was charged Monday with conspiring to violate federal and local campaign finance laws by funding off-the-books campaign activity for candidates, including Hillary Rodham Clinton and District Mayor Vincent Gray. Thompson, the multimillionaire, former owner of a well-connected accounting firm, was charged in a criminal information, a charging document that can only be filed with the defendant's consent and typically signals a guilty plea. So here's this guy giving. He gave $2 million to people off the books. One of them being Hillary Clinton. So keep an eye on that too. She's getting secret money. Also in Virginia. Now we got a couple of things going on in Virginia. You got a Muslim Brotherhood tied activist, and he's hosting a fundraiser for a Virginia Democrat. Washington Free Beacon says a Muslim Brotherhood affiliated activist whose organization recently came under fire for holding an anti-Semitic rally in support of ousted Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi will head a fundraiser for Democratic Representative Jerry Conley from Virginia. U.S.-based Muslim Brotherhood allies Akram El-Zed and Semeh Elenaway will host a fundraiser for Conley later this month at the Fairfax residence of Mohammed, according to a copy of the invitation obtained by the Washington Free Beacon. Attendees of the March 22nd fundraiser are asked to donate between $150 and $400 in order to attend the event, where supporters will have a chance to express appreciation and have direct conversation with Conley. Okay, so now you've got Muslim Brotherhoods holding fundraisers in Virginia for one guy. Now there's this other guy. His name is Dickinson, and he's running for Congress against Eric Cantor. He did an interview the other day, and in his interview he said, well, I'm a Democrat and I don't judge. Okay, it says Richmond Democrat who hopes to challenge Representative Eric Cantor for the 7th got a chilly reception from the Spotsylvania County Democratic Committee on Monday. Dickinson describes himself as a liberal Democrat during a speech at the committee's monthly meeting. I believe Democrats don't judge, he said. Well, he doesn't judge. I took a look at his Twitter feed. What got me was his attack on Sarah Palin. I'll get to that, but listen to this. He says, now these are just a couple of things he posted. Scott Walker's just as dirty as Oliver North. I hope they can stick a felony on him. Well, if he had a felony, they would have stick, right? He says Reagan hated science. Didn't think it was worth studying. AIDS, cancer, brain disease. Said Bible cured all. But Reagan never said that. He says, sadly ironic that Ronald Reagan hated science and cut funding to AIDS and Alzheimer's research. Alzheimer's ended up as his cause of death. That's not true either. He goes on and he says, how pathetic. He has no clue of reality. My advice to these morons is accept the new reality. Let me find the one from Palin. He says, say what you want about Obama. Only one sitting president has had a staffer convicted of a felony, Reagan and Oliver North. Let me find the one from Palin, because this is the one that set me off. I've got a whole pile of pages here of all his tweets. All right, Sarah Palin is a hypocrite, preaches Bible and abstinence while her daughter is out having kids. How dare he? They talk about the war on women, and here's this guy bringing a young girl. At first he says he doesn't judge, and then everything in his Twitter feed says that he does judge. But then to bring up that Palin kid again, does he think he's going to get brownie points? Does he think he's like a hero or something, that he can bash women? I'm a little tired of the Palin bashing. Matter of fact, Palin made some big speech
I loved her
the other
speech.
night.
I loved it.
Her.
She is a hell of a comedian. She's got her timing down on her jokes and her pundit remarks, and her timing is awesome. It really is. I loved it. And I want to talk about reinforcements. Send in reinforcement. Okay, There's a guy running against Mitch McConnell. His name starts with a B. It's
Brevard.
My mind. All these grassroots guys. Okay, there's guys. There's a Bill Connell running against Bevan. There's Matt Bevan. There's Bill Connell running against Lindsey Graham. And my guy, Rob Nannis, running against Mary Landrieu. And there's others out there. There's a dozen or more grassroots guys running. People, $50, anything, help these guys out, because they're running against the major Democrats and they're running against major rhinos. And we got to get McConnell out, or he'll end up being, even if we win the Senate, we don't need McConnell being the majority. I want Ted Cruz to take Harry Reid's job. That's, to me, the best man for that job. But anyway, we'll see how
Mitch McConnell said that. Mitch McConnell said about the Tea Party, they're going to crush them He vowed any Tea Party candidate challenging established Republicans in the 2014 midterm elections would not just fail, but fail miserably. I think we're going to crush them everywhere, he said. Mitch McConnell said that. Well, the Tea Party had a response to him. Here's the Tea Party response. It's shameful that the Senate Minority Leader would make such comments. He's talking about the base of the party, so he must not want the Tea Party vote in the general election, and that's why he should be removed. The GOP needs a uniter, not someone that's there because they have seniority. The days of the good old boys club are coming to an end. This seat doesn't belong to Mitch McConnell or the Republican Party. This seat belongs to we the people, and we will have our voices heard. Grassroots voters will not be bullied by self-anointed senators for life, said Matt Keeby, president and CEO of Freedom Works. Mitch McConnell and his cronies still serve the people back home, and his hostile comments only provide more motivation to send new leadership to Washington. Does Senator McConnell have a political death wish? There was some division within the Tea Party groups about whether they support him or support Matt Bevin, and I think he just settled the issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Speaking of the Senate race, I know we're running short on time, but I've got to throw this out. Louisiana politics has got a whole mind of its own. Our previous governor, who just got out of jail, Edwin Edwards, who 90% of the people in Louisiana love, he happens to be a Democrat, but he's an old-school Democrat. He's 85, 86, some 84 years old. He, on March 17th, is going to let us know if he's going to run for Congress. Now, the seat he's running for is the 6th district. That's the district Bill Cassidy has right now. And Bill Cassidy is also running against Mary Landrieu and Rob Maness. So we got Bill Cassidy, a Republican, that has a congressional seat right now. We have our guy, Rob Maness, who's a retired lieutenant colonel, grassroots American, he's an R, and then we have Mary Landrieu, who's got to go. Now, here's my theory on this. The best thing Bill Cassidy could do is back out of the Senate race and try to keep his congressional seat, because the only one that stands any chance of beating Edwin Edwards is the incumbent, which would be Bill Cassidy. So we'll end up with a Democrat in Congress. And I don't care who you are. In South Louisiana, you know, Democrat or not, even Republicans will vote for Edwin Edwards. So that's something for the think tanks to think about. If we want to keep that Republican seat in Congress, Bill Cassidy better take a hard look at it. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, well, you better replace the Republicans, because Mitch McConnell's a piece of work. You got this other one, Sensenbrenner, all right? He's another lifer up there. Do you know what he said about
Cassidy's in the House. Cassidy's in the House. He's not in the Senate. He's running for the Senate.
He's running for Senate. Better get some new blood up there. This Congressman Sensenbrenner, he said that Texas as a whole had a tendency to discriminate against minority voters and should be placed back under Holder's Justice Department supervision.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Sensenbrenner. And then he said Texas and Georgia are the two worst. And Texas and Georgia haven't gotten the message. He asserted that Texas is one of the worst, involves sporadic instances of county or voting jurisdictions not having adequate supply of foreign language ballots for an election. Okay? Yeah, that's a Republican saying that Texas and Georgia's elections should be under Holder's supervision. You got to go, Mr. Sensenbrenner.
I mean, this is what we've got going on, people. These people that have R behind their name, this guy, that's not a conservative. And maybe we need to quit using the word Republican, and let's talk about whether you're conservative, liberal, or whatever the hell else you are. And if hopefully Republican insiders are listening tonight, I hope to God he is, so maybe he can get a message to Bill Cassidy about hanging on to that House seat. Because if Edwards, on Monday, if Edwards gets in the race, man, this is a big, huge gamble in Louisiana politics.
Well, you know, losing seats is not an option, but having these people in there still, that's no better.
But look,
right, I'm going to finish up.
Putting Boehner in. They keep putting, Arizona keeps putting McCain in. I mean, you know, we can't.
Oh, we got a grassroots guy. We got a guy running, another military guy running against Sheila Jackson Lee. I don't know his name. We'll find out his name. That's another one we need to send money to, people. Sheila Jackson Lee's got to go. So
yeah.
That's what we got to pay attention to. Everybody quit worrying about the presidential 2016 race. Just get that off your mind. Fight for the Senate. Fight for the 2014 election. Find these people that we're telling you about and send them $50. Because they don't have no big RNC backing.
I'm a little tired of everybody being wedded to a D or an R behind their name. We have to look at the individual. All right, I want to finish up. We're almost out of time here. We've got about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
I want to finish up with a story about the FAA. They're saying that they're going to appeal a court's drone decision. Now, where do you hear this decision? This is from the Blaze. The Federal Aviation Administration said it will appeal a decision last week by National Transportation Safety Board Court that says the FAA currently has no laws on the books that would impact model aircraft flight. A paper aircraft or a toy balsa wood glider could subject the operator to the regulatory provisions of the FAA and TSB ruling. The FAA had attempted to classify Raphael Pinker's model airplane as an unmanned aircraft system and claimed he flew it reckless and careless fashion. But an NTSB administrative judge struck down the agency's claim, saying if the FAA had their way, their definition of a UAS could include a kid's paper airplane. Says to accept the FAA's interpretive argument would lead to a conclusion that those definitions include, as an aircraft, all types of devices, contrivances intended for or used for flight in the air. The extension of that conclusion would then result in the risible argument that a flight in the air of a paper aircraft or a toy balsa wood glider could subject the operator to regulatory provisions of the FAA. They want to regulate, those model planes that the guys all go out on Saturday and fly around, and, they use their little boats around here too. And, a kid's model airplane. The FAA wants to control that, and the judge said no, so now they're going to appeal it. All right, JoJo, we're out of time.
All right. Another weekly show's just gone by like quick.
Yep. Say goodnight, everybody. We could use another hour. I guess still got a pile of stuff we didn't discuss.
Yeah, I know. All right, everybody, stay tuned. It takes Scott several hours to load to YouTube, but sometime tomorrow, I'm sure, hopefully, he'll have it on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. It doesn't cost a thing. And we'll see y'all next week.
All right, good night, JoJo. Ladies and gentlemen, JoJo.